All right, let us talk Michigan. We were sunshine and roses coming out of the USC game because the Wolverines found a way to win. It didn't look pretty, but I praise Sherrone Moore for doing exactly what he had to do to win a game. And then we said, you're incredibly lucky, Michigan, because Minnesota will allow you to beat them the same way USC did, because we just saw Iowa beat them that way. And that's kind of what happened, although Minnesota made it very scary there at the end. And I just want to read you some numbers, Ari. And this is why it's time for we had the sunshine and roses, and now it's time for the tough love for Michigan. You ready for the tough love? Here we go. So these are the numbers of the drives for Michigan. These are how many plays they've run in each drive in the second halves of the USC and Minnesota games. 3, 3, 3, 1, 3, 10. You know which one that one was. 13, 4, 3, 14. So the median of that is 3. So your median drive in the second half, since you made Alex Orji the starting quarterback, is a 3 and out. You cannot keep putting your defense in that position. You have to diversify your offense. What has happened, and I don't mean totally, because obviously you're a lot better at running the ball than throwing the ball, but you have to be able to get the passing game going some weeks. Obviously, to beat Oregon or Ohio State, you will have to do something different. You will have to be more dynamic on offense. If you aren't, you will lose. But I'm talking about the Illinois game. I'm talking about the Indiana game. You need to be able to win those too. You're going to have to give them a little more variety than what you gave USC and Minnesota, I think. And it's going to be hard, but I have some faith because, again, Sherrone Moore has done what he's needed to do to this point. Colston Loveland came back in the Minnesota game. You did see him make 4 catches in that game. It wasn't, they weren't the prettiest thing in the world because it looks like he's still hurt, but that helps some. You got to find some other targets that Alex Orji is comfortable with, because the problem is that if the defense keeps getting put back on the field, as dominant as it is, and that's what you're seeing in the first parts of games, is Michigan's able to run the ball because it has a good offensive line. Orji's a great runner. Khalil Mullings is excellent. But teams make adjustments. They get into the half and they say, okay, we're not fitting this play up exactly right, but here's what we need to do to fit it up right. And that's why you're seeing the 3 and outs in the second half and the ball getting handed right back to the other team, which can then wear the Michigan defense out. That's the issue you have to avoid. And the way you avoid that is by sustaining drives a little longer. The only way you're going to do that is by sprinkling in a little more successful passing game. It may not be possible, but if Michigan wants to make the playoff, which, again, you're probably going to have to beat Ohio State or Oregon to make that happen and then win these other games, it's going to have to be more dynamic.
Yeah, I think that you covered it all there pretty good, Andy. I think that Michigan is winning by the same exact score 2 weeks in a row, 27-24 is kind of funny. But the passing output from Orji went from 32 to 86 in week over week improvement. Andy, a Michigan fan tweeted at me. He said, "Hey, can you just take it easy on my guys? We're finally into 1935 now. Imagine where we can be in 6 or 7 weeks." And I thought that was a really funny thing. But like the thing that is just truthful about it is like, on one hand, beating USC by only throwing for 32 yards is a very impressive accomplishment.
Yeah.
Like when you just say that, like being able to pound the ball the way that they pounded it, is not something that a lot of teams can do. But here's the thing that nobody is really, spending a lot of time dissecting. And I'm happy that you brought up those drive numbers. But in both the last 2 wins, Michigan got up early and then allowed the opponent to creep back in. Once they start to figure things out, they become more physical. Maybe Michigan becomes more tired. And all of a sudden you're in questionable games that you could potentially lose. If that onside kick at the end of the Minnesota game goes a little bit differently, or there isn't a call, Minnesota's out on the field with a chance to try to win that football game. So you're susceptible to losing. And I don't know if you can do this 4 quarters every single week without losing, eventually maybe even to a bad team. So, from that standpoint, getting Colston Loveland back, who had 4 receptions on the weekend, I think is an important step. I think that if they can get into the 1960s this week in passing, that would be a nice step. But playing on the road at Washington, then at Illinois, then at home against Michigan State in a rivalry game, then against Oregon, and then at Indiana, like that is a brutal 5-game stretch for a team that cannot throw the football forward. It just is. So I think that, I don't know if I'm ready to start talking about Michigan in the context of the playoff, but Andy, I don't know if this is possible, but if you wish it, you're a Michigan fan, go ahead and wish it. If Alex Orji becomes a okay passer, like somebody who could throw for 150, then all of a sudden you're a playoff team. I think that that is legitimately it. If you could be if you could be Iowa from last year with Iowa's offense this year, I think that you're a playoff team with the athletes that you have, especially on defense.
So here's my question, since we're doing it by eras and they're, they're in the 30s now, trying to get to the 60s.
Yeah.
Can they be in the 90s by Oregon? Because I want to see the pro set against Oregon. I want to see 2 backs and a tight end. I want to see the I formation. I want to see lead draw with Alex Orji. I want the 1994 Dallas Cowboys offense. I want lead draw from Alex Orji. He drops back like he's Troy Aikman, except at the C's part, and he just runs for 60 yards.
Just for context purposes, though, what year were they in last year when they won the national title?
They were squarely in the 80s and 90s.
I think they're in the 2000s. But if they could get to the 90s this year, I think they can make the playoff. I just don't think that you're going to have. It's impressive what they've done, but in order to have sustained success, I just don't know that you can do this every week. Iowa kept getting away with it, but Iowa scored 77 points last year on defense. So maybe Will Johnson can get more pick sixes. He already has 2, I think, this year. So, I think Michigan is playing with house money. I wouldn't mind seeing them try to open it up a little bit. I don't know if Alex Orji is incapable of it or if he just needs more reps. But if they continue to improve week over week, and if I start seeing some passing output, then I might actually start entertaining putting Michigan in my field, because I still think that if Michigan goes through this record and finishes 10-2, plays Ohio State close, and that's their 2nd loss of the year, and they beat everybody else, they could make the playoff as a 10-2 team. So I don't want to, I don't know that I'm there yet. I don't think that this version of Michigan can do that, but I do think that there is a realm of possibility that a team grows, a quarterback gets better, and things start, improving through the air.
Think you're in the 40s this weekend, Michigan? Let's get you to the 90s. I'm ready for the pro set. Let's go.